non-expected. That this would be the last spring in human history. Just after the spring festival, my brother and I returned to school. An unprecedented heatwave struck suddenly. Temperatures soared from 20 to 60 degrees. The entire city turned into a massive oven. It's so hot, I'm dying. How can it be this hot in March? Yeah, it's been over 40 degrees for 3 days straight. It was only the first week of school. The cafeteria was packed. Sis. Ouvert. My brother, Bufan, waved at me from a corner. As soon as I sat down, he pushed a cold cola toward me. Then Bufan said, Sis. What the hell is up with this weather? I checked the forecast. It's going to be 45 degrees tomorrow. 45 degrees. Première frenade. 45 degrees in March. You've got to be kidding. He pulled out his phone and held it up. Sis, look. Continuous, high temperatures all week. It could even reach 48 degrees. I stared at the numbers on the screen, feeling inexplicably anxious. Suddenly, a nearby electrical box exploded, sparking brightly. The lights instantly dimmed. A loud clamor erupted around us. Bufan's face paled, and he leaned closer to me. Is this really the end of the world? Don't talk nonsense. Go back to your dorm. I have to go to my internship this afternoon. He wiped the sweat from his face, nodding. Sis, this weather is way too abnormal. Make sure you stay out of the heat. At 6 p.m., I left the company office. A heatwave hit my face walking from the subway to my apartment complex. Just a few hundred meters, my back was completely soaked. I checked my phone. 42 degrees. The sky was still glaringly bright. The setting sun had an eerie red hue. I didn't have the power to predict the future, but 42 degrees in March. This was definitely not a good omen. I happened to pass by the neighborhood supermarket. I decided to stock up on some basic supplies. I went in and grabbed 2 large jugs of water, a box of instant noodles, tossed them into the cart, and added some frozen dumplings and biscuits. Passing the freezer, I hesitated for a moment, but opened it anyway, and threw a bag of ice cream into the cart. I thought about it, but I couldn't carry any more. I'd just order more online when I get home. I got back to my apartment, took a quick shower, and turned the AC to the max, just as I lay on my bed, about to order more supplies. Mi phone. Et toi, Mom? Hu Dao, did you get home from work? Yes, Mom, I checked the weather. It's over 40 degrees over there. Head straight to your apartment after work. Don't go running around outside. I know, Mom. I'm already home. Mom lowered her voice, sounding more urgent than usual. The weather this year is extremely bizarre. The fruit trees haven't even reached their blooming season, but they've bloomed and borne fruit early. Your dad says something's wrong. He cleared out the bomb shelter behind our mountain. He stored all the fruits in there, and even stocked up on water. No, you and Bufan need to book tickets and come home right away. I froze for a second. Mum, it's only March. Are the fruits really ripe this early? Your dad said. He hasn't seen weather like this in his 50 years of life. The bomb shelter is warm in winter and cool in summer. If anything happens, it's safer than the city. Don't wait for the weekend. Come back early. But Mom, I just started my internship. Let me talk to my manager first. Then hurry up. She hung up right after. Holding my phone, I felt my anxiety growing. The cafeteria's electrical box catching fire, fruit, trees blooming and bearing fruit early. Every single thing was a warning sign. There was definitely something wrong with this weather. Just then, Bufan called via video. His face was flushed red. The hallway behind him was chaotic. There were shadows of people running around. Something huge happened. Our school's boiler exploded from the heat. Yet, he turned the camera to the hallway behind him. The lens was covered in condensation, steaming hot. Crowds of people were screaming and dodging to the sides. Stay away from there. Are you hurt? No, I just got a massive scare. He looked back at the panic-stricken crowd behind him, lowering his voice. See? Is there really something wrong with the weather? Don't ask anymore. Don't go back to your dorm. Come straight to my place. I hung up the phone, walked over to the window, and pulled the curtains back. It was 8 p.m., yet it was glaringly bright outside. It wasn't streetlights, it was the sun. Première starée d'été in that eerie red light. My palms started sweating. Half an hour later, Bufan's voice echoed outside my door. The door was pounded fiercely. I rushed over to open it. Bufan lunged inside. Completely drenched, he gasped heavily for air, then shoved his phone in my face. Sis, look at this. An emergency alert popped up on his screen. Due to the continuous extreme heatwave, all schools and businesses across the city are suspended, effective immediately. Resumption time will be notified separately. Citizens are advised not to go out unless absolutely necessary and take precautions against heat stroke. He looked up at me, panic in his eyes. What does this mean? My own anxiety was skyrocketing, but I couldn't let him see it. Bufan, get some rest early tonight. I'll book our tickets now. We're going home tomorrow. He froze for a second. Why are we going home? I gave him a look. Do you really think this weather is normal? He looked out the window, didn't say another word, and just nodded. Early the next morning, I was woken up by the heat. Grabbing my phone, another news alert popped up. Latest updates. The city's peak temperature has hit 48 degrees. Surface temperatures have exceeded 60 degrees. Asphalt is melting on several roads. Multiple pile-up accidents have occurred on the highways. They are currently fully locked down. High-speed trains are temporarily suspended. Airports are closed. My hands started shaking. Has the heatwave apocalypse truly arrived? Just as I was about to go wake Bufan, Mom's phone call came in. I answered and immediately heard her frantic voice. Hu Dao, did you see the news? The trains are suspended. The highways are closed too. Xiaoyou. How are we supposed to get back? There was a pause on the other end. And then Dad took the phone. Don't panic. Go find your Uncle Wang. He's an old comrade of mine. He runs a logistics business in your city. I've asked him to prepare a car for you. No time to talk. I'll contact him now. You head straight over there. Dad quickly sent us the address and phone number. We rushed straight to the destination. It was an old apartment complex. From a distance, we saw an older man waiting downstairs. Beside him was a dusty, grey van. When Uncle Wang saw us, "Eu avait us." At his feet was a box of bottled water. "You're Hu Dao, right? Your dad told me. I've been driving this van for years. The AC doesn't work too well. So, you'll just have to make do. Here is some water for you guys. Drink it on the road." Bufan walked over to inspect the vehicle. He couldn't help but ask, "Uncle Wang, can this car even run?" Uncle Wang patted the door and chuckled. "Why wouldn't it? I just drove it back from the suburbs. It runs fine. I took the keys." "Thank you, Uncle Wang." He glanced up at the sky, his face darkening. "No need to thank me. Just go. Your dad is right. This temperature is completely messed up." I tossed the keys to Bufan. "Sis, should we go back for the rest of our supplies? We can't delay any longer. We'll restock on the road if we get the chance." 20 minutes later, Bufan stared at the road ahead, frowning. "Sis, this AC really isn't working at all." "All right, stop complaining. Let me check the route Dad sent. How do we get out of the city?" As the car drove onto the streets, I was stunned. Is this still the city I knew? Shops along the street were tightly shut. People were dragging suitcases along the road, stopping every few steps to gasp for air. Some were crouched on the roadside, shaking their dizzy heads. The asphalt on the ground was melting, making a sticky sound as the tires rolled over it. The air smelled of scorched rubber. Bufan's hands gripping the steering wheel were trembling. He swallowed hard. "Sis, can we really make it out?" I looked forward. "Yes. We definitely will. Mom and Dad are waiting for us." The van turned a corner. The light ahead was green. I instinctively glanced to the right. A truck charged out from the right intersection, not slowing down at all. Turn left. Our van skidded to the side. A massive crash erupted behind us. I looked through the rearview mirror. Right in the middle of the intersection, a sedan had violently crashed into the truck. The truck rolled over, crushing the sedan underneath. Smoke poured out of the front. And that exact spot was where we had been heading just seconds ago. If Bufan hadn't swerved, if he had been a second too late. I didn't dare look back a second time. My brother slammed on the gas pedal. The car practically shot forward. His face was as white as a sheet, gripping the wheel tight. "See that car just now? Don't talk. Watch the road." He clenched his jaw, staring ahead. But his hands were still shaking. The car swerved slightly in an S shape. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. We can't panic. Panic means death. Bufan, Dad sent the route. I'll start the navigation. I nodded. I caught sight of the rearview mirror. The intersection was out of sight now. Only a plume of black smoke rising in the distance. Turn right in 500 meters. To enter the national highway. Once on the highway, the road conditions were no better than in the city. The leaves on the trees along the road were completely yellowed and curled, like they had been scorched by fire. Some had already started to fall. The tires crushed them with a dry, cracking sound. Broken down cars could be seen scattered along the roadside. Some had their doors wide open. Luggage spilled all over the ground. On some. Sis, don't look. But I had already seen it. A white sedan was flipped into the ditch. The windows were shattered, and I could faintly see figures inside, completely motionless. My throat tightened. I forced myself to look away and focus on the road ahead. The car's AC had given out long ago. The air blowing out of it was scalding hot. I handed half a bottle of water to Bufan. Drink some water, your lips are cracked. He took it, had a couple of sips, and handed it back. You drink too. I took a tiny sip and held the bottle tightly in my hand. We need to ration our water, sis. Do you think Mom and Dad are okay? I took out my phone. No signal. Since half an hour ago. Calls wouldn't go through. And messages wouldn't send. It felt like we had been forgotten by the world. I don't know. But it's cooler in the mountains with Mom and Dad. They're definitely fine. My brother didn't say anything else. The car kept driving forward. The only sound was the tires rolling over dry leaves. We drove for another hour. And a gas station appeared ahead. He turned the wheel to pull in. The gas station was unnaturally quiet. The convenience store doors were wide open, pitch black inside. Shelves were knocked over, looking like it had been looted. Something's wrong with this place. We should leave. Première no d'aide. Just as I was about to speak, I suddenly heard a noise. It came from behind the convenience store. Very fin. Ignore it. Let's go. It was a girl's voice. Bufan, turn off the engine. I'm going to check, sis. What if, even so, I have to? Without water or gas, we won't get far. I pushed the car door open. The heatwave instantly engulfed me. Bufan followed me out, clutching a baseball bat in his hands. We stepped into the store carefully. When we saw what was inside, we froze. Please, save my grandpa. I beg you. Please, save him. I rushed over, knelt, and checked the old man's pulse. It was very weak, but still beating. Bufan, get the water. Bufan ran back to the car and brought over a whole case of water. I twisted one open and carefully fed some to the old man. I handed another bottle to the girl. Why are you guys here? Where's your car? The car. The car ran out of gas. I helped Grandpa in here to find help. But it was empty. There wasn't a single person. I shouted for a long time, but no one answered. Grandpa couldn't walk anymore, so he collapsed here. I couldn't carry him. Where are you guys heading? I don't know. We wanted to go back to our hometown. There was a huge traffic jam. Grandpa said we should take a detour, but in the end, the car ran out of gas. I remained silent for a few seconds. I turned to look at Bufan. Sis, you're not thinking of. Let's help them. Just for a stretch. When we reach the next town, We can see if there's any rescue operation. He opened his mouth, but eventually nodded. Fine. Whatever. You say we carried the old man into our vans. Back seat. The girl sat next to him to take care of him. Bufan got back into the driver's seat. We don't have much gas left. Adding to more people. I know, but I can't just leave them to die. He didn't say anything more, just stared blankly ahead. From the back seat, the girl's low sobbing could be heard. Thank you. My name is Xiaoyou. We drove for about 20 minutes, when a sea of red taillights suddenly appeared ahead. Bufan slowed down when we saw clearly what it was. He completely froze. Heatwave. Countless cars blocking the national highway, stretching out as far as the eye could see, like a giant, dead dragon, paralyzed on the ground. What do we do, Bufan? A scream from Xiaoyou erupted from the back seat. Grandpa, Grandpa. What's wrong? I sharply turned my head. The old man's face was even redder than before. His breathing was growing weaker, and the rise and fall of his chest was barely visible. Water, quick, give him water. Xiaoyou frantically twisted open a bottle, but the old man's jaw was clamped shut. The water just flowed down his chin. We couldn't feed him at all. Grandpa, please don't leave me. I beg you, don't leave me behind. I violently shoved the car door open, jumped out, pulled the old man, and laid him flat on the ground. Chest compressions. Rescue breaths. Un cycle. Deux cycles. Tricycle. The old man had no reaction. Xiaoyou knelt beside him, crying so hard no sound came out, just gripping the old man's hand tightly. Bufan walked over, his voice hoarse. It's no use, sis. In this heat. Shoot up. I continued the compressions. Sweat dripped from my forehead and splashed onto his face. Four cycle. Five cycle. Six cycle. My hands were numb. My mind was completely blank. All I knew was to keep pressing down. Suddenly, a hand weakly grasped my wrist. Première phrase. Première look it done. The old man's eyes had opened a slit. His lips moved, like he was trying to say something. Grandpa, Grandpa, you're awake. The old man looked at Xiaoyou. A faint, forced smile appearing on his lips. Then, his gaze turned to me. His lips moved again. Première lunette donne, bringing my ear close to his mouth. And then, those eyes slowly closed shut. Sis, it's getting dark. We need to go. Premier stood up, my legs so weak I almost collapsed. I glanced at the old man on the ground, and then looked at Xiaoyou. She was kneeling there, perfectly still. Like a statue. Xiaoyou, we have to go. She didn't move. Xiaoyou, your grandpa. Your grandpa, he wants you to live on properly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have woken up, and wouldn't have said that last sentence to me. Xiaoyou slowly lifted her head to look at me, then turned back to look at her grandpa. Her gaze gradually became resolute. The tears slowly stopped falling. She stood up slowly, turned, and took 2 steps towards the van. Just au bed. She looked back at her grandpa one last time with deep reluctance. Tears welled up again. She bit her lip, turned her head away forcefully, refusing to look back anymore, and walked to the car. Première bentadone, and whispered to the old man, "Rest in peace. I will take good care of her." Bufan started the engine and slowly drove away. Past the endless jam of dead cars. Past the old man's body. Past a life that would never return. Xiaoyou sat in the back seat, hugging herself tightly without saying a word. The tears just kept flowing. Night completely fell. Bufan found a small dirt road to bypass the blocked highway. The car drove through the dark for a long time. There were no streetlights, only the headlights piercing the darkness ahead. By the time I woke up, the world outside the window was still an endless, pitch-black night. I sat up straight and looked at the driver's seat. Bufan's eyes were fixed on the road, but his eyelids were heavy. "Bufan, pull over. Let me drive." "Sis, go back to sleep." "I'm not sleepy. Don't say you're not sleepy. Your eyes are almost closing shut. Fatigue driving is too dangerous." Bufan nodded, and finally pulled over to the side of the road. I switched to the driver's seat. He fell asleep the moment he sat down. The back seat was very quiet. Xiaoyou was huddled in the corner, hugging herself, staring out the window. I drove for over an hour. The fuel gauge needle was getting dangerously close to the red line. Water was running low too. "Sister," Xiaoyou's voice came from the back. It was very soft, as if afraid to wake up Bufan. "What eat?" She stayed silent for a while, then whispered, "My grandpa." "Is it because of me?" "Of course not," I interrupted her. "It had nothing to do with you. In this kind of heat, nobody can survive it." Xiaoyou didn't say anything, just buried her head lower. Her shoulders trembled slightly. Suddenly, a patch of light appeared ahead. A few low-rise buildings were lit up, with some cars parked in front. It was a small town. "Bufan," I called out softly, "wake up. There's a town ahead." Bufan's eyes snapped open. "What is it? What happened?" "There's a town. We might be able to find supplies, but I don't know if it's safe." He rubbed his eyes and looked forward. I slowly drove closer and saw that it was a gas station. Next to it was a small convenience store. The lights were on and the door was open. People were walking in and out. I hesitated for a moment but drove over anyway. "You guys stay in the car. I'll go check it out." "Don't go." Bufan grabbed my arm. "It's too dangerous. You have to." "We're almost out of gas." As soon as I stepped out, the heatwave instantly wrapped around my body. It was even more suffocating than the daytime. There were only 7 or 8 people in the store, their faces numb, as they rummaged through the already looted shelves. Just as I was about to ask if there were any other shops around before I could speak, engine roars echoed from outside. Several cars shut off their engines at once. Over a dozen men stepped out, holding weapons in their hands. The store instantly plunged into chaos. Some ran towards the back door. Some hid behind the shelves. And others just slumped onto the floor, muttering, "It's over. We're dead." I backed into a corner, looking out through the glass window. The leader was a bald man. He walked up to our van and tapped the window with an iron pipe. Xiaoyou. Bufan shielded Xiaoyou behind him. His face was pale, but his eyes remained relatively calm. Baldy looked at the two of them. On s'nirait. Eh. Two brats, what do you have in the car? Bufan didn't answer. One of Baldy's men had already opened the back door. He yelled, "Boss! There's food and water." Baldy raised an eyebrow. Oh? Luke US. Take it all. I couldn't just stand by anymore. I walked right out. Aldon. Everyone turned to look at me. Baldy narrowed his eyes. Another chick. You with them? Yes, those supplies are what's keeping us alive. We can't give them to you. Ah? Keeping you alive, little girl, look around. In this weather, nobody's gonna survive. Whoever gets the stuff, gets the stuff. He took a step forward, and I took a step back. My back hit the wall. There was nowhere else to go. Bufan tried to rush over, but he was pinned down by two guys. He couldn't move. Baldy walked up to me, looking down at me. You look pretty good. How about you come with me? I'll make sure you stay alive. I stared dead at him. My mind was racing. What do premier do? Bufan was held down, screaming desperately, "Let go of me, sis! Let go of her." Baldy ignored him. He reached out to grab me. Right at that moment, the walkie-talkie on his waist suddenly crackled. Boss, boss. Do you copy? Baldy frowned. He grabbed the walkie-talkie. What are you yelling about? The voice on the other end was practically shrieking. The warehouse. The warehouse is on fire. Everyone froze. Baldy's face instantly turned dark. What did you say? It's too hot. The warehouse caught fire. Quick, get the boys back here to put it out. Through the walkie-talkie came chaotic footsteps, screams, and the crackling sound of burning flames. Baldy violently smashed the walkie-talkie. He yelled at his gang, "Let's go. Hurry back." The thugs' faces all changed, and they ran back to their cars, cursing. The three vehicles sped away, disappearing into the night. My legs gave out, and I fell to my knees. Sis, Bufan rushed over to support me. Sis, are you okay? I shook my head, unable to speak, and turned to look for Xiaoyou. She was huddled behind the car, hugging her knees, trembling all over. Xiaoyou, I walked over and crouched down. Itu sokai. They're gone. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face, and threw herself into my arms. I thought we were done for. Premier Guédère. Holding her tightly, Bufan squatted down too, placing a hand on her back. Once we calmed down, we went back into the supermarket. It was completely empty. Everyone had fled. Sis, look. Bufan pointed at the shelf at the very bottom. There are still a few cases of water. They had been covered by a fallen cloth and went unnoticed. Première Xiaoyou. There really was water. There were also a few packs of instant noodles and biscuits. Bufan smiled. He smiled until tears came out. God hasn't given up on us yet. We carried the supplies to the car. The trunk was full again. and so were our hearts. The horizon began to lighten. Sis, you've been driving all night. Let me take over. Première nodded and pulled over to the side. Bufan started the car and continued our journey. I leaned back in the seat, closed me of the engine, and his soft murmurs to himself. Almost there. We're almost there. I don't know how long passed, but Bufan's voice woke me up. Sis. Look, I opened my eyes and followed his gaze. It was the trees along the mountain road, though the leaves were all yellowed. That curve, that slope, that mountain peak visible from afar. Sis, Bufan said excitedly. It's our home. We're really home. I choked up and nodded, unable to say a single word. Bufan slammed on the gas, driving straight up the mountain. We finally arrived. Our old house was still there. Mom and Dad were standing at the door looking out. Seeing our car, Mom covered her mouth. Dad jogged over quickly. As soon as the car stopped, première Xiaoyou. Throwing myself into Mom's arms. Mom, I'm back. We're home. Mom held me tight, her hands shaking. Bufan ran over too. The four of us hugged each other. Dad patted my back. You're safe now that you're home. I was crying too hard to speak. The terror from the journey, the despair, the exhaustion, it all turned into tears. I couldn't stop them. Suddenly, I remembered something. I let go of Mom and ran back to the car. Xiaoyou was quietly watching us, a faint smile on her face. I reached out my hand. We're home. Xiaoyou froze for a second and pointed at herself. Maître. Yes, from now on, this is your home too. Xiaoyou looked at me, her eyes slowly turning red. She slowly reached out and took my hand. In that moment, in the tears, and hugged me tightly. Mom watched from the side. Though she didn't know exactly what had happened, she still walked over and gently patted Xiaoyou's back. Good girl, don't cry. Everything is fine now that you're home. Dad called Bufan and me into the courtyard. He pointed towards the back mountain. The bomb shelter is piled high with fruits. Pear, apple, peach. They all ripened early because of the heat this year. It's enough for us to eat for a long time. Éposé. But we can't tell anyone about this. It's a chaotic mess outside right now. There are all kinds of people. If anyone finds out we have food, it'll mean trouble. I nodded, my heart feeling heavy. I know, Dad. Mom sat in the main room. The palm leaf fan in her hand never stopped moving. The breeze it created was hot, but she kept fanning us anyway. We didn't just sit in the main room. Mom had brewed a large pot of mung bean soup and made everyone drink to big bowls. She also soaked towels in cold water to wipe our faces and arms. Xiaoyou sat in the corner, as quiet as a stray cat that had just been picked up. When Mom brought her the mung bean soup, she lowered her head and whispered, "Thank you, Auntie." Mom gently rubbed her head. "Géo des girls, you're here now. This is your home now." That night, I slept very deeply. The terror and exhaustion from the road were finally released in this familiar environment. In my sleep, I faintly heard a few shouts from the distance. I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or if it was real. The next morning, I was woken up by the heat. I opened my eyes, drenched in sweat, but I could still feel a breeze. It was Mom. She was still fanning me. I didn't know if she had slept at all. Premier setup. Looking at Mom's bloodshot eyes. I didn't dare ask. I groped for my phone to check the time. There was no signal, and the battery was low. The top of the screen displayed the outdoor temperature, 63 degrees. 63 degrees. I stared at the number, completely stunned. When I went downstairs, my parents were already in the yard. Dad was holding a thermometer. Il faisait grim. It hit 60 degrees at 4 a.m. And it's still rising. Mom muttered from the side, "When is this misery going to end?" Bufan ran over. "Sis! Look over there." He pointed towards the foot of the mountain. I squinted and looked over. My heart instantly leaping into my throat. There was smoke. Several plumes, thick black smoke, rising from different locations. Xiaoyou came out too, standing behind me. "What is that?" I shook my head. I didn't dare guess, nor did I want to. Dad walked over and watched for a long time. He said, in a heavy voice, "It started last night. It's complete chaos in the town now. People are looting and starting fires." None of us said a word. We just watched the black smoke, twisting and rising in the heat waves. For the next 3 days, we didn't leave the house. Dad checked the bomb shelter every morning and evening. When he came back, he'd always bring some fruit. Mom said we had to ration them, since we didn't know how long we had to hold out. Xiaoyou slowly became less timid. She started helping Mom with chores. She still didn't talk much, but occasionally she'd reveal a faint smile. On the 4th night, something happened. I was woken up by a loud commotion. There were shouts and footsteps, and the sound of someone smashing the door. Dad had already rushed out. I grabbed the baseball bat next to me and ran out after him. In the courtyard, Dad was standing behind the front door, looking out through a crack. His face was furious. I crept over and looked through the gap. Outside were 7 or 8 men. They held clubs, shovels, and one even had a machete. The leader was a tall, skinny man, forcefully pushing on the door. "Open up, I know someone's in there." "Open the door," the men behind him joined in. "Stop hiding. Give us some food. We're starving to death." Dad didn't move. He said coldly, "Go away. We don't have any food." "Bullshit." The tall, skinny man cursed. "You grow fruit trees. You definitely have stashes. Bring it out and share it, so we can all live." "I told you, we don't have any." Dad's voice was stern. "Leave." There was silence outside for a few seconds. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Asterisk. The door smashing resumed. The door shook violently, creaking under the pressure. Mom ran out. Air face pâle. Bufan and Xiaoyou followed behind her. Xiaoyou had somehow grabbed a kitchen knife her eyes terrifyingly calm. I snatched the knife from her hand and shoved it to Dad. Then I rushed back inside and dug out a few bottles of Dad's liquor. Bufan followed me in. Sis, what are you doing? Help me find some cloth. We're going to light these bottles on fire. I'll go watch the door. Find a chance to throw them out. He instantly understood, nodded, and went to prepare them. Soon after, Bufan ran over. Ready, I took one. When I opened the door, we throw them out together. I pulled the door open just a crack. Entrez. 1, 2, 3. Two flaming bottles flew out simultaneously. Bong, bong. Asterisk. Two bursts of fire erupted and scrambled backward. Someone caught on fire, rolling on the ground. I took the chance to slam the door shut, my heart pounding as if it would leap out of my throat. Curses came from outside. Crazy bitch. She's trying to burn us alive. Go, let's get out of here. The footsteps receded and slowly disappeared. I slid down the door and collapsed onto the ground, shaking all over. Mama Gedma, you silly girl. You could have gotten yourself killed. I didn't speak. I just hugged Mom, trying desperately to hold back my tears. Xiaoyou walked over, held my hand, and whispered, Sister, you are so brave. I looked at her, and finally let the tears fall. After that day, no one else came. Maybe they knew our family wasn't to be messed with. Maybe they were already dead. Or maybe they had found somewhere else. Days passed one by one. The heat wave persisted, but I don't know exactly which day it was. The temperature stopped rising. First, it stabilized at 56 degrees, then 55 degrees, 54 degrees. Dad recorded the temperature every day, 3 times a day, drawing a curve in his notebook. At that time, I didn't know that this heat wave was actually coming to an end. On the 53rd day, it dropped to 40 degrees. On the 57th day, 38 degrees. On the 63rd day, 35 degrees. That morning, I pushed open the window, and for the first time, I felt a cool breeze. A truly cool breeze. Not the hot air fanned by a palm leaf. It was a real, natural, cool breeze. I stood by the window, letting the wind blow against my face. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Xiaoyou's voice came from behind me. Sister, has the temperature dropped? I turned around, looked at terre. I nod. Yes, it's over. Tears instantly welled up in Xiaoyou's eyes. She ran over and hugged me. She held me so tightly. I could hear her crying. I was crying too, but we were both smiling. That afternoon, Dad brought out the fruits stored in the bomb shelter. Mom cooked a massive feast. We sat around the table in the courtyard, just like celebrating the new year. Bufan bit into an apple and suddenly said, "What do you think it's like outside now?" I shook my head. I don't know. Xiaoyou whispered, "Will anyone come?" They will, I said. When the sky gets a bit brighter, people will definitely come out. Das, looking at us. He stayed silent for a long time. Then he suddenly said, "Our family has 5 people now." I froze for a second, and then I smiled. Yes, 5 people. Xiaoyou kept her head down, her shoulders trembling slightly. From now on, every year at this time, we will all sit together and have a meal. How about that? Xiaoyou looked up, red, and nodded firmly. Okay.